So have you ever wondered why television shows air at a time that they do? For instance, only during the fall and the spring, but rarely new shows come out during the summer. We have a question about that and we'll answer it after this. Hello out there, I'm the oldest nerd. We have a fellow nerd validating your feelings, asking this question. What do you think about the idea of showing a new Orville episode monthly versus weekly? Seems to me once they go on December 30th, they'll have a bunch of episodes in the can. What if they show Season 2, Episode 1 on December 30th, and Season 2, Episode 2 on, say, January 30th, and Season 2, Episode 3 on February 28th, and so on? Then fans would not have to see all of Season 2 in just a few months, and then have to wait months for the next season. Instead, they only have to wait a month, which helps increase the overall energy behind the Orville in the long term. I think this could be a win-win for everyone. Does that make sense? What do you think? Well, I think that in a vacuum, it makes a lot of sense. It would, on the one hand, allow people who produce these programs to have more time to produce each episode, rather than having to have a start of a couple of months before they get the first episode out, and then have to very rapidly finish up the episodes as they go weekly after that. Unfortunately, the way television is set up, in the United States anyway, is not set for such a way to work. We know that the BBC, for instance, which is a taxpayer-supported network by the British public, is able to do shows. They can do 5 shows if they want to, or they can do 20 if they want to, and they can space them apart. For a while on Doctor Who, for instance, there were only specials that came on 4 times a year, but were spaced out in very good shows. There were longer shows too. But it's not, there are a couple of reasons that they don't do it, especially on American television. Much of it has to do with advertising. Because American television does not charge a license fee, and you don't pay for the programs as such, except in streaming services and in cable situations where generally you're paying for the delivery service. The programs have to be advertiser supported, and the advertisers want to advertise during times when there are going to be the most viewers. They have found through decades of research that there are more people that listen in the fall and in the spring, the early spring, than in the summertime. Summertime, there are people on vacation, there are people doing more outdoor activities, there are people taking more trips, and they're not sitting in front of the television quite as much. And therefore, television viewing generally is down during the summer in the United States. So the advertisers don't want it that way. They want the shows to be placed in areas where they are most likely to have the largest audience. So that restricts it to the fall and to the spring. Now, because of the expensive programs like the Orville to produce, it is necessary to make fewer episodes in order to be able to use the care and expense to put them all together. It takes a lot of money, and we've talked about this before. It takes a lot of money to produce a science fiction program, and networks and production companies are willing to put up so much money, but then it's taking a chance after that it's not all going to be recouped later down the line. So they order them in smaller numbers so they can afford the sticker shock, if you will, in order to present the program. So for the most part, instead of seeing shows that when I was a child, shows were generally 26 weeks, and then they dropped somewhere down the line to 24 weeks, then they went to 22 weeks, and in most recent years, you're starting to see some series that don't do all of 20, and in fact, the Orville this coming season is only going to do 14 episodes. And they're not even going to start them until December 30th. And they've said that the reason they're starting on December 30th is so that it won't conflict with football, which is a big money maker for Fox, also done during the fall. So they're going to start it on the 30th after the last football game, and it's going to follow that game, so they will have the biggest audience they can to kick it off, and then they'll follow there. So in order to make all of these shows fit into this period of which you have the most people watching, they have to fit it all between January and April. By May, school is letting out, people are traveling more, people are going outside more, and you have less television watching. That's one thing. And another is the fact that television works by habitual watching. As a fan of the Orville, like you may be, like I am, there is no problem in our finding the show and watching it when it comes down. But these shows cannot survive just on the fans. We are a large number of people, but certainly not enough to make these commercially viable. So they want to bring in a general audience as well. So because of that, it is easier to have habitual watching on a weekly basis rather than a once a month where it can get lost. Oh, I missed that special. I wasn't expecting it because last Monday there was, a Western on. And so in order to create the habit of tuning in each week at the same time for the show, they do it that way. And the only differences on that is if it happens to be a holiday weekend during Christmas time, during Easter. During these times, they generally do not show episodes or new episodes because, once again, the viewing audience is down. So while there are a number of good reasons to do a once a month and do it all year round rather than clump them all together and make us wait 6 months until the next show comes up, it's just a simple matter of broadcast economics that it does not work that way. However, the good news is that we're getting ever closer to the first episode of season 2 of The Orville, and we will be able to watch it up. So we're looking forward to it coming back. It will be back, I think, before Discovery is. It'll be back only slightly later than Doctor Who is. So it looks like when we get well settled into the fall and ready to see these shows, they'll be ready for us. I'd like to know what you think. If you have some ideas, if you have any questions that you'd like to ask me, or some ideas for videos, we certainly would entertain them in the comments below. In the meantime, don't forget to subscribe. We appreciate subscriptions. We've had a run on them lately. Thank you very much. And I'd like to invite you to subscribe as well by clicking on the circle in right here and also checking out some of the videos we have recommended for you over here. Until next time, don't go far.